You need to know why the market is down. Why did it wick down the way it did? Did they sell the fact on the White House report early? I'm going to let you know. This is the Market Update. I am your host, Bill Noble. Now, we have several things going on at the same time. First of all, it's month end and people move money around, and that frequently doesn't have much to do with fundamentals or technicals. So that's the first thing. The second thing is equities, for whatever reason, have gotten all of the money and all of the attention to the point where bullish sentiment in equities literally is 100% in many cases. Or said differently, CTAs, commodity trading advisors, hedge funds, etc., are at like their highest level of exposure ever. Seriously, ever. The Charles Schwab Investors Sentiment Survey is the highest it's been since 2017, and that's the highest reading ever. Everything in the stock market has gone from total despair in April to like almost a wild euphoria in July. The shorts are thrown in the towel. The shorts are destroyed. And it seems like they've captured the spotlight. Now, of course, that's annoying to our crypto people. Meanwhile, the White House issued the crypto plan, which was a nothing burger. And I guess you would have known that because they were selling crypto 3 days in advance. And then they had to do the wick down just for good measure this afternoon. Now, when they do these wicks down or they pressure the market like this, the first question I often ask myself is, who's down there buying? That's one. And two, frankly, did we all deserve it? Was there too much cringe on ETH Treasury? Were people changing their profile pictures to NFTs? Were people cheering Ethereum's birthday? It's funny, nobody was cheering anything about Ethereum at 1,400. Now it's like, wow, what's the next ETH Treasury company? That's crypto's inbred, blow up switch. We did it this time, right? People got all bulled up, and then we acted silly, and then it turns around and comes back down again. You have to ask yourself, when it comes to S&P, when it comes to stocks, did crypto go down in advance of a decline in stocks? Sometimes that happens. Crypto will be going down 3, 4, 5 days in advance of something happening to equities. It's also possible that we just all got too bullish and everything just got flushed out. Now, on to what's next. What is next? You have multiple planetary alignments going on in August. One of them may not be friendly to equities. Now, you also have a full moon around the 10th, which I think could be another dip buying opportunity. I think Bitcoin in particular is interesting. Why? Because they've given up on it. Retail interest is at its lowest level ever. Glassnode is reporting, there are a lot of whales who are in profits, and there are a lot of people who could sell if the market goes up. Well, okay, yeah, there are a lot of whales who could sell, but who's going to be up there? Who's going to take it from them? We already know that, right? Michael Saylor and BlackRock have bought 1 million Bitcoin between them, and people are acting like that hasn't happened. They're acting like that can't continue. Now, again, Uncle Sugar did say something about setting up strategies to buy Bitcoin. I don't know what kind of strategy you need to hit the green button, but I guess they can't come heavy-handed into the market. And I think it's fair to say that the people that voted the way they voted back in November have not exactly gotten what they voted for. Now, I'm okay with it because I think what's going on up there between the $2 trillion event with the big, beautiful bill and this mess with Powell, because they're going to go right back to that tomorrow, I think that justifies a bid in Bitcoin at a minimum. At a minimum. And I think giving up on crypto just because they wicked it down like they did today. In fact, when they wicked it down and liquidated something like $200 million and they wiped out a lot of the July gains, it's just a trading game. I thought it was a trend. I thought we had some stability on the way up. And so did everybody else. That sick feeling that you've got company. Now, there are some pieces of good news, even if stocks topped. I think there's a head and shoulders bottom pattern forming in Bitcoin. I think certain coins like Bitcoin Cash and Monero are deeply oversold. I think Solana, I think everyone's given up on Solana the way everyone gave up on ETH. And I think that's a mistake, right? And XRP is holding $3. You know, you've got a lot of movement in XRP futures, a lot of people squaring up their books. And, you know, before I get into slides and news, folks, people want to go on vacation. I know I've said this a couple times, but, you know, that wick down today, that may be just people giving up, right? Their stops got triggered. Their last trade for the month didn't work out. They're just like, I'm done. Markets don't need a reason to go down. They need a reason to go up, but you can always wash people out. And you can always try to assign meaning to it. And sometimes there is no meaning to it, right? It just went down because people wanted to go home. That's it. That is it. Okay. So here comes the Bitcoin head and shoulders bottom. So this is the 90-minute chart. Now, if this feels like a classic, right? Because normally when you have a head and shoulders bottom like this, that right shoulder is really nasty. The bears really want to push it down. And when it doesn't work, right? So you draw the neckline up here. You know, so if Bitcoin could turn around and take out 120 again, you would travel that distance from the point of the breakout, which is like 125. So I don't really understand why everybody all of a sudden gave up on Bitcoin, particularly since if you look at S&P, I mean, this is crazy, right? They're in the premium zone. You know, NASDAQ is already up 1% after hours on earnings. You know, I don't want to get in the way of this. And obviously, if this stays up, it will keep crypto stable. But all the money in the world flooding into this, I mean, crypto equities, like anyone who buys XRP, and I know we covered this, anybody who buys XRP or buys Ethereum, the stock ramps immediately, whereas the cryptos don't even move. So you have kind of a blow-off top in equities, and I hate to say it, but I don't know when it ends. It should end, but I don't know when it does. You know, but when it comes to this, when everyone is dumping Bitcoin at the end of a month, you know what? I'm kind of interested. The grift is unbelievable. Nancy Pelosi says she does not do insider trading. Okay, well, Nancy Pelosi is a hedge fund, literally. Like, she's more accurate than Cathie Wood by a long shot, by a lot. They follow her trades. There might even be a Nancy Pelosi ETF. S&P is the new BTC. This is funny, right? SPX 6900. An S&P coin is better than Bitcoin. Now, for cringe. And there's a lot of it. Okay, so happy birthday, Ethereum. You know, I'm not sure that's bullish. And this, you know, I don't know. He must do this on purpose. Maybe they're short. I don't know. So I noticed that Mike Novogratz from Galaxy Digital changed his profile picture to a little NFT guy. I'm like, hey, Mike, excuse me, Mike, please don't. This is like the Luna tattoo. I was like, oh my God. No wonder the market is down. See, this is what I'm saying. Crypto gets all euphoric, right? Laser eyes on Michael Saylor. Oh, please stop, right? This is, you know, this kind of stuff, it is, to me, it is extremely negative. Like, look at this about Dubai's hot property market. You know, oh, it's hot, 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 right? Use crypto to buy the property out there. You know, I mean, it's okay if that's what's happening, but when it comes this big headline, you know, the media is always wrong. 212 million liquidated. Again, Binance, big exchanges pulling your money right off the table. Ethereum defies the slump as analysts see path to 5,000. It's hysterical, right? I mean, this is okay. I'm okay with this, right? Nobody wanted to sell Ethereum because, you know, they're going ETF and ETH treasury crazy. You know, which leads me to believe Ethereum could be sucking all the capital out of altcoins. You know what I'm saying? Like, if everyone's buying Ethereum, no one's buying anything else. Weird. Just like, you know, Bitcoin sucked all the capital out of crypto for a very long time. Look at this. Base overtakes Solana in daily tokens created as Pump.Fun continues to implode. You know, what this market is missing, right, is speculative juices. No one wants to speculate in technology. No one wants to do memes. RWA is theoretical, and we're waiting for the banks to come into DeFi, to the point where professional traders are essentially making fun of crypto, saying there's no point in looking a long-term out into the future. The only thing worth doing is looking inside of a little range and trying to find good risk rewards, which is what good traders do. Okay, that's fine. But I find it interesting that they're kind of giving up on this idea of a trend. Yes, there is a lot of cringe, but the idea of a trend, he's saying price predictions. And I know XRP going to $589 is, you know, all over the internet. I understand that. But you can use your imagination on a trend, because if you used your imagination on ETH at the retesting the 2017 high, yeah, I mean, that wasn't hard. It was hard to look at, but it wasn't hard. It honestly wasn't. Okay, you know, we have Cynthia Lummis and senators trying to fight the good fight, right? They want to like embed crypto as possible collateral for mortgage applications. Okay. You know, we have ETH treasury volatility in equities, like the treasury company that Tom Lee is affiliated with is actually doing a stock buyback. So they bought a bunch of ETH, and to stop short sellers from crushing the stock, because that's what they do. As soon as a Bitcoin or an ETH treasury company comes out, short sellers short it as it goes up. So it's very clever that they're using capital to buy the stock back to prevent short sellers from crushing it. It's also very interesting about these short sellers that what happens in some of these companies if it starts to rally. Marathon Digital's earnings just came out, and they were just fine and dandy thanks to the fact that they're holding a truckload of Bitcoin, so they don't sell what they mine, and they raise capital to buy more. So their strategy was more along like the hedge fund side, which I think is really, really interesting. Really interesting. Okay. And again, this XRP futures, man. Wow. XRP futures volume on Kraken eclipses Solana. So two things from this. One, I think the fact that they're really mixing it up at $3, you know, there's probably a lot of sellers in spot. And then there's, you know, a lot of guys taking that from them, figuring there's going to be an XRP futures ETF one day, right? Or XRP is a fast form of money is a good idea, because after all, Bitcoin Cash has been trending higher the entire time. There was like no real correction in Bitcoin Cash of late. None. Right? So this whole idea of fast money is being traded. It's being traded in Bitcoin Cash, and everyone is ignoring it. And I think Bitcoin Cash could be a leader in that sector, and XRP could follow. So again, why are we all giving up? Yes, they washed you out. They've done that before. They're probably standing down there buying. Michael Saylor bought at 117. So again, the market makers give the Bitcoin to Michael Saylor, and then the market gets knocked down so they can try to get their Bitcoin back or their crypto or whatever else. You know, you see those wicks down, you know, that's some market maker trying to break the market so they can get the crypto that they need. Every time Michael Saylor buys, he buys the high, and then the market makers knock it down. I mean, literally, it happens every single time. The only time that didn't happen is when Bitcoin ramped from like 106 to 125, because I think Michael Saylor wanted Bitcoin and they didn't have it. So the market got bid up. But the normal process is for Michael Saylor to go, okay, I bought at 117 and the market makers knock it down to try to get everything back, stop the world out. Textbook. You know, Galaxy Digital sold a bunch of Bitcoin. I don't know if that was a contributing factor. I don't know if they got short on the heels of that. Again, if you look back at previous declines in crypto, you're going to ask yourself, what was that all about again? Right? You remember why it goes up because, you know, if you ever have retail start to come out of stocks, I mean, you know, the complacency there is mind-boggling. They went from 0% bullish to 100%. Fear greed was at 0. They went from 0 to 100 in the course of like 3 months. You know, and the earnings from all these companies are coming out. They're still buying it. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, it means that, you know, no one's interested in the Bitcoin ETF. So that slumps, and that's followed by the general public not being interested in Bitcoin, which, as I said earlier, makes me interested in Bitcoin. Let's look at charts. So ETH on a 4-hour chart, they just sold it into support. They wicked it into support, and support is holding. I don't see any reason other than just them just wicking this down and stopping everybody out why you would get upset in ETH. Frankly, why you would get upset at all, except for the fact maybe that, you know, ETH is sucking a lot of capital out of the market. Solana is kind of the same thing, although, you know, you just can't lie that breaking out of a triangle like this on the downside is not good. It's just not good. Right? This is part of what's going on is that, you know, you have a little bit of chart rot going on, like in Solana. Like Bitcoin setup is good, but like, you know, I mean, Solana is well supported here, but the optics of that probably doesn't make anybody want to buy. That's, you know, one thing that is amazing is like, if you look at SUI on an 89-minute chart, it's like they unwound everything that happened at the end of July to the point where, you know, you're almost wondering whether or not the rally was fake. Seriously. They just, you know, there's this huge open mouth formation. Now, there's a battle down there to see if Sui's going to hold. I'm sure Big Rich is not getting out, right? But, you know, this really hurt people. Requesting my opinion of the DXY, okay? So let's look at DXY. And I think, you know, this is part of what happened, right? DXY went straight up because Wall Street was so shorted, right? This was like fear greed was at 0, right? Fear greed. Okay, so let's just rewind. So the tariff thing comes out. The Orange Man makes this big fuss about it. Okay. And the stock market goes down, and every analyst has to alter their price forecast, alter their economic forecast based on what the stock market did. So they all called for a recession. Then when they realized that wasn't happening, and it was never happening because of the data center build outs and the power plant build outs that are going to occur. So there was never going to be a recession. They all switched to short dollar. They all switched to short dollar, right? So they pushed the market down in this downward sloping wedge, right? LuxAlgo putting support underneath it. And then most likely what they're going to do is, you know, they may wind up retracing 62% of the recent decline, which would be 101. It's currently at 98.9. And again, this whole going home for August thing, they put the dollar short on, right? All these weak hands shorted the dollar, and then they all got stopped out. And the price action, this is like a P&L destruction environment. That's what I call it. Meaning this. So here's what a P&L destruction environment means. They got short equities and they got smoked. They got completely squeezed out. They got short the dollar. They got completely squeezed out. Ray Dalio called for the end of all things. That didn't work out. The bond market didn't implode. Nothing that they thought was going to happen happened. And they got squeezed out in a very thin market, which could have also been what happened to alts, right? You have a thin summer market. And then, you know, I had said you go boo, and the market I thought was going to go up, and then it turns around and goes straight down. Like there was no buyer because there's nobody at the office. No one's interested in Bitcoin. I'm interested in Bitcoin. The dollar wants to go up. Okay. Okay. Right. They're getting squeezed out of a position. They may be taking that out on Bitcoin. They may be taking it out on Ethereum, or they may be taking it out on the rest of crypto. So what? Right. I mean, Web3 itself is so underpriced. And, you know, if you go in the YouTube member area, which ironically, we did because of, you know, this you know, fat finger problem that I have with setting it up. The last stream wound up on the free side of our program here. And in the hidden portfolio, Toby looks at you, and Toby hasn't been wrong about anything ever. And then, you know, she looks at it and goes, look, you can throw a dart at a list of altcoins and it'll be okay. You know, because eventually, you know, the rising tide of Bitcoin and Ethereum will lift all boats. And there's going to be a need for decentralized everything. I mean, you know, when you look at what Web 2 is doing, you know, I summarized the picks from the free live streams into a members only just own 10. And, you know, they've done a markdown on some of that over the last 2 days. Me and her are the opposite. Like, I look at this thing go down like 4 days in a row, and I'm like, oh my God. She doesn't have to deal with it every day like I do. So she looks at it and goes, oh, okay, let's go shopping. She likes it when it's down because she basically wants to load up for not just the future, but our future, right? Thoughts on DXY? I have a base case for alts up between August 4th and 8th. Thoughts from Wrong Again. Listen, I agree. There's a solar and lunar eclipse in September, right? And eclipses can create a lot of volatility. They can. So like if there's a trend into the eclipse, the trend reverses. You know, these are huge inflection points. You know, you have to join the YouTube member area to find out what our view is for the fourth quarter. But Toby will tell you that altcoins are suppressed. And I would even argue that Bitcoin at this point is suppressed. Right? And then, you know, we've got everyone in the Patreon group kind of set for, you know, better days ahead. In other words, hey, the platinum area's got a lot of GAN-related work. And just because either, you know, stocks go down or whatever's going to happen, or even if it's just a nothing burger, right? Everybody was looking for, the orange man to moon their bags, and that didn't happen, that is definitely not a reason to be selling crypto. So we're ready. We're ready. And the time to get ready, as I've said, is when everybody is in a state of, oh my God, I don't like this. I want to give up. I want to pack it in. Don't pack it in. Shop. Let's go to Tornado Cash. I don't know if everybody realizes this, but Roman Storm, the guy that basically wrote the Tornado Cash code and created the mixer where your ETH goes in, right, from an address, and when it comes out, they can't tell where it came from. In other words, transactional freedom. I didn't really realize this, but this is not a civil lawsuit. This is not about somebody suing somebody for money. Tomorrow, both sides will have a chance to summarize their arguments, closing statements to the jury. So this is criminal. Now, it's going to a jury. I'm not sure the jury understands crypto. I'm not sure the jury understands crypto at all. And I know we covered this yesterday, but New York City subways, the platforms are not air conditioned. So that's what you look like on a subway after fighting in court, frankly, for your transactional freedom. John McAfee would say, your day job, he used a different word, but let's just say, it's like a shackle. Everything they want you to do shackles you into the system, which is why on a day like today, you think about this guy. And I hope that if there's a guilty verdict, the orange man is smart enough to turn around and give him an immediate pardon, because writing code is not illegal. And there was something in here about him emailing somebody internally, trying to do something with the Tornado Cash code, banning wallets to stop a hack. So, what did you want the guy to do? The things that McAfee said back in 2018, like the Declaration of Cryptocurrency Independence, particularly after we all got kind of rugged on the things that we voted for in November, not all the things, but, that didn't exactly work out the way everybody with red hats wanted it to. Okay. To be honest, your freedom, having your freedom, keeping your freedom is up to you. It's up to all of us. Really, it is. Right. And then when you, when you look at, people changing their NFT pictures or cringy birthday pictures for Vitalik, all it does is make you realize that, there is a lot of hope in crypto. That's the only place there is hope. Just sometimes we take it a little bit too far, but it's also silly that a 3-day altcoin rally is too far. Now, I keep waiting for the 3-day altcoin rally to turn into a trend. We just have to wait. The money is not in the buying and the selling. The money is in the waiting. Okay. Let's see what kind of TA we got out there in DeMark land. Okay. So if we look here, we don't have anything really in Bitcoin, except for the fact that they couldn't really get it close to support. This is a 4-hour chart. That is quite the candlestick they have going on there. Wow. This is brutal, right? It looks like a new trend is going to start and they reverse it hard back above support. Again, Michael Saylor buys at 117 and they do everything they can to push it down to get it back. And it's not working. It really isn't. It's not working. Solana on a 90-minute chart. Again, another classic. Here's the 13 bottom that should have ended the decline. Here's the blow off bottom line. So what do? They just smash it. They smash it. They know where these lines are. They have an idea. So let's just take it down there. And then it turns around and it goes right back up again and goes back to a sense of normalcy now. And there's a new level of hesitation in the market. You know, Monero on a 90-minute chart was a perfect 13 bottom. You know, I just like looking at it now along with Bitcoin Cash. Wow, is that right? Nobody knows what's going on there. Nobody knows. And no one's curious. That's the thing. Like, I'm really curious. It's like, hey, is this going up? Is like Roger Ver going to, win his court case? Or, I don't know why someone is loading up on this. But I know Bitcoin Cash is fast money. Right? It's like, look how fast that came back. Aero, ETH DeFi on a daily chart, right? LuxAlgo support is holding. They smacked it right down to the bottom of an accumulation cone. And in some ways in Aero, I feel like saying, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Cardano, in a certain way, is the exact same thing on a daily chart, right? It's like, wow. This thing broke out and you thought it was going to go to the moon. And instead they brought it right back down again. And if you look at like kind of a list of like bigger alts, like, Arbitrum still down 3%. Again, they smashed it right into support. So, I mean, unless there's going to be a complete mess into the rest of this week, the only thing that's changed is probably people's minds. Okay. Render not looking special necessarily. Jupiter went to equilibrium. A lot of times things go to the premium zone and they come back to equilibrium. That's here. Jupiter is in the Solana 7 in the Patreon, in the Patreon store, right? I changed some of the prices for you on the crypto equities reports to get people, I don't know, more into that. But I mean, the people who are members get a lot of this stuff at a discounted price, including like the trading roadmap. But I got the Solana 7 for $17 and the crypto equities portfolios are also $17 now. Because again, when do you buy these things? When crypto is down, right? And then, if you pay one price, you just get them all. Plus everything else that comes out, because we're going to be blasting out research, right? Tomorrow is going to be Toby on the YouTube member podcast on Thursday, which I will work with the Eagle King to get behind the paywall. Right now, we can also start going just doing live TA. We can start going to monthly charts. So sad but true, Solana is not necessarily winning the battle at 180. I don't know what it is about Solana and 180. And I really thought on a daily chart, it's not going on a daily chart, and on a monthly chart, I really thought it was going this time. Nope. I don't know what it is. Maybe the validator's selling. Who knows? I just don't. It's amazing. ETH on a monthly chart, I know pulled up short of support. Just barely. Actually, no, it got there at 3,900. So ETH tested support. This is where FTX started from. FTX started at 3,580. Really, that's where, you had 3 down months. So ETH has now reset itself back to where it was in 2022. What's changed in ETH? Nothing. The only thing that, I'm not sharing the screen. Okay. So ETH back where FTX started. What's changed? I think what's changed in ETH is that we're just simply waiting for the next killer application. That was the talk in ETH in 2016. Everyone's like, we don't need this. We have Bitcoin. There's no application for this. And then that changed with MetaMask, Compound, Chainlink, and Uniswap. Now we're waiting for the next best thing, or the ETF is the next big thing. Because like I said, the higher the tech stocks go, the cheaper ETH looks optically to people in equities. All right. So the higher the tech stocks go, it's like, well, you know, maybe we should move some money from this stuff into Ethereum. And Solana, as I noted, so disappointing, but it's not over. You know, there's still one more day, but Solana does not have the punch to get through 180. And I know I've talked about it, but I mean, if you look at the transactional freedom coins, I mean, Bitcoin Cash is kind of funny. There was the 13 bottom over here in March, and it's been up only since. This is the 4th month in a row. But if you look at the big picture, it's the bigger the base, the higher in the space. I mean, the resistance in Bitcoin Cash, which is trying to take out, is 590. This has been the one coin market. And again, you have to ask yourself, what is this about? And if there's no apparent, like the media doesn't write about it, and nobody writes about it. Like, this is funny. Is this the meme coin for Bitcoin? Is this, it's moving like a meme coin. They can't hold it down. You know, I don't know. Maybe somebody's loading up on it, expecting normies to come in heavy when Bitcoin takes off and goes back to 125. I don't know. But if this thing breaks 590, you know, I know there's resistance here. There was a big failure, but you know, the resistance is right there. I mean, if you had said, Solana wasn't going to do anything and Bitcoin Cash is going to go up 4 months in a row, that's exactly what people would have done. They would have laughed in your face. But that's what's happening. You know, and I think, unfortunately, the Solana reality is that it really was a meme coin chain. It really was for now. I don't think that's true, but Mr. Market doesn't want to do it. Like, Solana is the new ETH, the abandoned layer one. You know, XRP, like I said, on a monthly basis, doing this like return to the top within a month. And I was listening to Benjamin Cohn the other day talking about Google searches and retail participation. None. So there's no retail participation. Big players are selling, but Bitcoin is not going down. It's not going down. Which, you know, again, if everyone sells and the market doesn't go down, it's going to turn around and go up. Right. And Solana Capital is maybe moving over to Base. And if Coinbase gets their act together, or maybe gets a real world asset project or something running on Base, you know, Aero and all these Base projects, they're cheap. They're cheap. As somebody brought up Zebec, let me pull that up. No, this had quite the month and is pretty much up only. I think this is deep in for normies, where you can actually get your money and spend it on a debit card. Like, there are leading indicators out there. Stuff is moving. It's just not the whole market is moving, but there are leading indicators. Big Rich with the super chat, looking for super. looking for super. Again, like so many other coins, they smashed this thing for strange, no apparent reason, right into support. Sila says Bitcoin Cash appeals to normies that miss Bitcoin. Okay. You know, I look at it as the Roger Ver meme coin. You know, think all these guys that wound up on the wrong end of Uncle Sugar. You know, I hope, you know, if they won't do the strategic Bitcoin reserve, I hope they help out some of these guys. I mean, Roger Ver had to get rid of his citizenship because he was so afraid of what they were doing. We'll see what happens. This is RSC, research coin. I don't know anything about it. I just know that, like so many coins, like when we do the YouTube member podcast and somebody wants Toby, you know, to do her, you know, her own version of intuitive TA, she just looks at stuff and goes, yeah, another rounding bottom. Yup, another rounding bottom. Yup, another rounding bottom. Now, of course, it's annoying. It's annoying, and I understand that. Totally. Totally. All right, folks. That is the market update for today. Wait, we will wait. DRB, sorry. By the way, if you get the $4.99 emoji plan, you get priority on comments, as do VIP members. So please feel free to support the channel. Debt Relief Bot. Okay. You know, like I said earlier, the bigger the base, the higher into space. When these coins decide to go, they decide to go. And you know, they got to have a fundamental catalyst, or there has to be a market catalyst. But once they have a catalyst, off it goes, and it's a base coin. So, you know, 16 million market cap. Do your own research. Do your own research. C-Loss with a super chat. Shiba Dog raises and lowers his index finger to get noticed. I'm not sure. I'm not following along with that, but I do appreciate the super chat in there. All right, Crypto Crazy Knowledge Dump is here. C-Loss is looking for HMPH. HMPH. No. HMPF. Okay, Eagle King is going to have to look that up. Here it is. He's got it. Here comes the screen share. By the way, the most under... Oh, yeah, we look at this every now and then. Yeah, people like this. Toby, you know, the base toad. You know, you have a lot of volatility around this former support point, a former resistance point. Like the give up trade started from here. You know, the old double spike. A lot of times when an altcoin is going to go into winter, it goes down and then there's one final spike and then that's it. So you have a lot of volatility around here. It doesn't always pay to chase. Like if you were long that, fine. But if you weren't, I don't know that you should chase. Okay. I can't find Fartcoin. There are so many versions. That's what they were mooning before they were mooning everything else. I don't know about chasing memes, but I was looking at, okay, Sila says he was just goofing around. The meme that I was trying to get like positioned in was Pepe, and they just blasted it. It's a very, I know it's just stating a fact. It's a very difficult market, a very difficult market. Like Fartcoin at a $1 billion market cap. It did not pay to chase Fartcoin. Like if you chased it here, you kind of got chopped around a little. Like once it went up, like once this sort of algorithmic trend started, it didn't necessarily pay. I hope the red will soon be over in XRP. Dude, when it comes to XRP, I keep coming back to the idea of not just fast money, but of retail participation. Like it really feels like the only people playing in XRP, honestly, the only people playing in XRP are institutions. Now, I think one of the things that you maybe need to do is start drawing like fib retracements. Like XRP perfectly retraced a 38%. Which, you know, is totally normal, right? Everyone's like, oh my God, the market's down so much. Well, not really. Not really. It just retraced. It did a 38% retracement of a vertical move. What's wrong with that? I know people wanted to go up only for absolutely ever. I get it. I get it. But in bull markets, it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't. You wanted to. And I understand you're frustrated because it's been shaking everybody out for quite some time. And that's annoying. Okay, so TAO outperformed. And now it's underperforming. But it's starting to get positive money flow. They're done. Let's go to DeMark on this to see if there's anything going on. So looking at the 90-minute chart, again, pretty classic, right? You have a 13 and a 9 bottom, which can be powerful. And then they just, I don't know, they spend multiple days running stops. That's the game. Like, you know, remember how Peter Brandt said, you know, stop doing price predictions? Like the guys who benefit in an environment like this are traders who, you know, buy it when everyone's talking about alt season, sell it when everyone's talking about alt season, and buy it when everyone is getting stopped out. And Ohm is pretty much the same thing. You know, real world assets has not been traded at all. And I think the first chain to get the first big real world asset project, like that's going to be meaningful because real world assets is just talk right now. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. Toby likes Ohm. She was talking about, you know, value investing in Ohm when it went down. And I just sort of looked at her. I was like, really? She's like, yeah, really? I'm like, okay. I mean, you know, so you've made absolutely no money fading Toby. None. Okay, folks, that is the market update for today. What Big Rich wants deep. I can't remember the last time the market update had 2 encores. Of course, it's also worth noting that the people who are members also super chat. Okay, so not a perfect trend line. 1 minute. 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 but it could be this. It feels like to me that the market is building a base, right? And it's wearing you out. And that's really why you listen to Toby, because Toby doesn't, you know, sit around and be like, yeah, I'm frustrated. She doesn't do that. When someone's asking for block, I'm assuming they're talking about the stock. Excuse me. Okay, so here's block. Again, alt season is in equities. I mean, I was into crypto equities and I've been into crypto equities, so I'm happy to say that. All right, now this is an island bottom, meaning there was a gap on the way down over here, and then there was a gap on the way up over here. Now, that said, there's island bottoms work in commodities like soybeans. They never work. They never work. So you can expect block to roll over. Okay. Now the block everyone's talking about, which is why the Eagle King is like the greatest producer in YouTube, is everyone is looking at block, the crypto, the real world asset project. Dude, it's a stair-step function higher. And clearly the volume is in. Now, volume is both buying and selling at 97 million market cap. I'm telling you, the first real world asset project to get a really big deal, like a big deal, like not, oh, I hear BlackRock is using Ondo. No. The first place to get a real deal, meaning somebody actually running something on chain. Okay. Right. I got Ohm based on DeMark. Right. Again, it's a bottom and a stop fishing exercise across the board. That's it. That's it. A thin market, and they want to run stops, get you discouraged, and hoover up necessary crypto. That's it. That is what happened today. And you know that's true because of that big wick down, right? Like everybody gave up and got stopped out all at once. It's like they knew where the stops were. Of course they know where stops were. What do you think these trading desks at Binance and all these places, that's what they do, right? That's what happens at Wall Street. They know, or in bond futures or any of this stuff. People for a living, not for a living, but as a part of a trading desk, is knowing where everyone's stops are, so you can trigger the stops, hoover up everything, or sell everything into a euphoric wick. And that's all that there is. That's what there is in this market right now. Until something happens, right? There's a reason Ray Dalio went to 15% gold and Bitcoin. There is a reason for that. We don't know what that reason is at the moment, but we will find out. DC Precise, I didn't get to welcome who was here, so we'll do a triple encore. All right, so I know we have Big Rich here because he super chatted. Welcome, sir. I'm sure we have Bull Runner on the stream. Willameter, welcome. Hal Lopez, dude, that guy is up in the middle of the night in Portugal. God bless you, sir. Livid 351, welcome to the show. Patriot Caveman. Mateo, holy schmoly. Wrong again. Donato. Wolf Riot Star, a member. Roger, Miklo. Hot Mess Express, hanging in there. Wrong again. Roger. Your bass hurts. My bass does hurt after this today, right? It does. Pancakes and peanut butter. Wrong again. Tyler, a member. Welcome. RNR. Welcome. Daniel from the Jersey Shore. Jack, welcome. Crypto Mike is here. Felix. Packard TV. Suncatcher Hawaii, a member. Welcome. Mr. Q. DNT Saver. All the OGs. Ricky Ricardo. Welcome, sir. Welcome. A classic name from an old TV show, right? C-Loss Big Rich, thank you for the super chat. RNR. Welcome to the show. DC Precise. C-Loss. Indie Rock Crypto. Welcome. Swiss Seb, a member. Thank you. Thank you. Bubba Frunidi. Welcome. Top 10 is here. Crypto Crazy with a super chat just because he's doing a super chat. Welcome. All right. When easy mode like 2020, 2021? Sir, nothing is easy. And 2020, 2021 was easy on the way up, but everybody got caught and got round tripped. Or said differently, 2020, 2021 created excess that led to FTX. So it was easy on the way up. You know, FTX, I thought was going to end crypto. I thought, oh my God, we're done. That was worse than 2008 in equities. Not in terms of societal economic impact, but the price action. Really. Okay. So you're better off having it be orderly. I know everyone wants Bitcoin to go from 120 to 250 like that. That may happen at some point, but the catalyst for that could be scary, and the correction when that happens could be scary if it goes full banana zone. You want it to be orderly. Now, what could go full banana zone is altcoins, because they're suppressed, they're undervalued, blah, 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 which you've heard from me and you've heard from Toby. It's better to hear it from Toby because it's more believable and it's said with a calmer voice. Okay. Big Rich with the $10 super chat on the way out the door. Thank you for your business. Thank you for your super chats. On behalf of the Eagle King, all right, and Toby, we will see you tomorrow.